Live. Welcome to another Friday evening live with me, Hanifa Nayela. Today is no different. We are here every Friday at 5 p.m. talking about the various topics, mostly around, if it's not parenting, definitely self development. Kind of two categories I think that we need to talk a lot more about, specifically as in the Black community. Um, and so we are here every Friday to do just that. I know you guys have probably seen some familiar faces here. We have Alkama back with us, and we have Nzinga back with us. And I'm going to tell you guys why I chose to have this conversation. There were some other ladies that were invited as well, and they may come in. But I'm going to talk about why I wanted to have this conversation with these specific ladies. If you are just joining in, and you haven't subscribed to the channel as yet, please go back out, subscribe, and then come back and join us. I call it wiping your feet. Okay, it's just good manners. And then like the video as well, and also let us know that you're here so that we can highlight your comments and we can say hi back to you as well. Our conversations tend to be very interactive. I'm getting better at bringing the audience in because sometimes I'll be going and I'll forget. So I like to take a pause and, shout you guys out, even ask the questions that you guys are asking. So quickly, we have Philip. He was here earlier just to show his love. He says, "Bless you over the top." My sister, she says this is going to be over the top. Arshawn, as usual, thank you for your support. Arshawn says, "Ladies." Tiffany, hey Tiff. She's saying hello, ladies. Ashan, hi. Wana. Hey, Wana. I'm echoing. Someone has their thing on. Okay. Ashan, we see E Black TV still at work. We'll catch the replay. Hey, Hanifa. Hey, E Black. Thank you for the support. Okay, I see all you guys starting to come in. My bae. Hey. She said, hey, ladies. And one again. Okay, so this specific conversation, the reason why I didn't send any questions to you guys this time is because I just want us to have the conversation. It is an open discussion. So I'm gonna encourage those in the audience to join at any time. I'm gonna share the link because I really just want to talk about letting go. We're gonna go through each one, letting go, moving on, and changing directions. The reason why I selected this specific topic is because I really believe a lot of us are experiencing a season of shifting and a season of change. A lot of us at the same time. And I know this from engaging in multiple conversations, right? And I'm like, we need to bring this to the public so that people can know that they're not alone in their transition. Because sometimes it depends on what the change is. They can feel a little lonely. So I wanted to bring this conversation to the public just to, in case someone hears it and they receive some encouragement. Hey, these sisters are dealing with this too. So I know that I can, get through it, whatever that it is. So that's the purpose of this conversation. The reason why I called on the both of you, not because I adore and admire you guys, because so Alkama and I, we are sisters outside of social media. So we do talk to each other. And so I know she's going through a very interesting shifting, and I don't even think that and we're gonna get into it because this is her life. So she's gonna have to tell it. But I don't even know that she has gotten the full picture yet. I think it's still sort of coming together, and that's exciting. And so I wanted to bring her on because I'm just like, sis, we need to talk about this, okay? And then Nzinga, I may not talk to Nzinga all the time, but I know a shift when I see it. And I follow you on social media, and I could tell there's a shift that's happening, have happened in some places, and so I wanted to kind of bring you into the conversation. Wanda says she needs this conversation. Yes, sis, we could all use it, okay?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
transitioning is not all peaches and cream. It's not all strawberries. It's not all rose petals, right? It's not all beauty, right? So I want us to just talk candidly and transparently about where we are. Do you, any of you guys want to say anything to the topic before I delve right into it?
Yeah, I just wanted to, it really hit home when you had mentioned that so many of us are going through a shift all at the same time. I totally agree with that. I totally agree. It's just ironically, just about an hour ago, someone came into the restaurant and said that it was her first time here, but she had got word from multiple sources that she needed to come and visit this
Wow.
restaurant. And just talking to her for 2 minutes, I said, yeah, sis, you on your journey. So, she another awakening soul, and she's searching for information, and she's just hungry at the moment. And I think that is the prevailing thought at the moment.
Yeah, in Zinga, anything you
Yeah,
want to
no,
say?
I just wanted to add in that that yes, it and it's so crazy because just like Elkamore just now mentioned, I think it's just I don't know if it's just because I'm in that season, but I just see it in a lot of different people, like everybody being in this season of just kind of like transitioning, and it can be difficult, it can be really difficult, depending on where you are in your stages. But
Mhm.
one of the main things that I'm learning is that nothing grows in complacency.
Very
You've
true.
been doing something for a long time, your spirit, especially when your spirit start talking to you, it's but nothing grows in complacency. So that's what I would add to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good gem right there. Nothing grows in complacency,
I agree.
because we like to be comfortable as human
Yes.
beings. We like to take the least stressful, right? The least difficult path. If you put two before us and one of them are loaded with rocks and then the other one is paved smoothly, majority of us is going to take the smooth path. That's just human nature. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But I want to start off with getting into letting go. Now, this is an interesting one for me because one of the things that I know hinders us from letting go that from things or actually delay our letting go process is familiarity. It's
Mhm.
familiarity. Like that's a big one. And I often say familiarity and loyalty kind of like they hold hands,
Mm.
because
Mhm.
we're loyal to what's familiar to us. We're
Mhm.
committed to the things that are familiar to us. So I want to talk to you ladies about letting go. And in the season that you guys are in, I want to discuss some of the things that, and you guys, y'all know me, this is a safe space with me, not
Yeah.
necessarily YouTube, but
Uh-oh.
huh? Alkema, you said something?
Yeah, I wonder, am I the only one that's hearing really bad volume?
Oh, yeah, I'm not. Let me see in the comments. Let me see.
Am I the only one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm not hearing anything. If you guys are here, if it sounds funny, let us know in the comments.
Okay.
Um, so I want to get to Wana's thing in a minute. But if you guys would just let's open up discussing letting go and some of the things that you've had to let go of, and maybe things that you got to let go of, that the due date has come, but you're still kind of holding on to it. Let's talk about that. Where are you guys at as far as letting go? What has been a challenge for you?
I would say one of the things that I'm realizing is that every relationship that I have towards something in relationship with other people or whatever the case may be is a direct reflection of myself, right? And so what I'm learning with regards to the whole concept of letting go, I had to learn that I had to first let go of the stories that I was telling myself, the stories
Mhm.
and the fears, because that's still a story of
Mhm.
telling yourself perhaps that you can't live without something,
Yeah.
or the fear of changing something, what that would look like, what that new transition in your life choice or whatever the case may be will look like for you. So I had to tell myself that letting go, I had to first let go of those things that I was telling myself, because sometimes we can put ourselves in situations much longer than what we have to, just off of what we tell ourselves, just by the story that we tell ourselves. Oh, well, if you leave this relationship, you won't, get another one. Or, we just always think of the worst case scenario in certain situations, right? So
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
for me, I had to first let go of the story that I was telling myself, and I'm talking about this to any point in my life where I can say that I really went through something that was like really impactful in my life. Any decision that I had to make that was like, wow, this is going to change the rest of my life, right? I had to realize first that I had to be willing to let go of the story that I was telling myself, the narrative that I was telling myself, because I tried to move in a space where I'm not always thinking about the other, the other person, the
Mhm.
other people, the guy, the one, is it. I'm trying to be more focused on the relationship with myself, what I tell
Mhm.
myself, because
Mhm.
inevitably you can't, people can, obviously hurt you or whatever the case may be, meaning if they came up to you, stabbed you, shot you, something like that. But really, that's really chances are less likely that that will happen. It's usually the relationship that we have with ourselves, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That helps us to get through some of this stuff. So when it comes to letting go, you're going to have your days where, let's just say you decided to leave a relationship, you decided to leave something that you really believed in, believe that this is what you were called to do, that you were going to be doing. Maybe it was a lifestyle change. Maybe it was whatever
Yeah.
it have been. You said to yourself, I'm going to let go. And you begin to miss something. That relationship was very toxic. That the friendship maybe not have been something that, was good for you. And you begin
Mhm.
to miss it. And you begin to be like, you know what, maybe I made the wrong decision or whatever the case may be. But I'm learning that in the process of letting go, that, or I like to call it a grieving process,
Yes.
from the familiarity of something, I'm
Yes.
learning that it's okay to miss what you're used to, but it does not mean that you have to go back to it.
Yes, I just wrote down two things that stuck out for me as you were speaking. So one of the things that I heard you talk about, and as I was writing it, you said it, which was we create narratives that we become attached to. And what happens is that a lot of it also has to do with the way that we are socialized and the way that we
Yes,
are
of
brought
course.
up, to where it's sort of
Hmm.
like this is the box that you need to exist in.
Hmm.
Anything outside of it is absolutely dangerous, right?
Hmm.
To
Hmm.
your well-being, right? And to
Hmm.
your existence. Do not go outside of the box. And so what happens is we become one with the box, right? And to think of it, to think of actually exiting, to even think of stepping over one of
Hmm.
those lines of that box is extremely scary. So what happens to us is the fear paralyzes us, right?
Hmm.
And then we also think, damn, let me say it this way. Some of us are living in narratives that were written for us,
Hmm.
and we have just continued them
Hmm.
because that's all we know. But the
Hmm.
reality is this: if it's a narrative, it could be changed at any time.
It can be
I
changed at any
tell
time.
people all the time, just flip the page,
Yep.
start a new chapter, put a period on it, And then I always say, if we allow people to control our narratives, they will put periods where commas are supposed to go.
I love that. I love that.
That's
Where
something.
my pen and paper at? Where my pen and paper? Can I get a few snaps?
That's
Yes, I love that.
You
I
guys
love
know
that.
I be getting my little downloads and I share.
Yes,
And that's
I
one
love
of them
it.
that's always stuck with me, is that if you allow people to control and write your narratives, they will put periods where commas were intended.
I love that.
You just taking a breath and they think that you're done. All
Mhm.
you're doing is taking a quick breath, and they're like, "Oh, she out the game. She done."
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and then the other thing you just mentioned is the grieving process. This is
Yes.
the this is the thing that people need to understand. When you let go,
Mhm.
especially if you were holding on to that thing for a long time,
Mhm.
there is
Mhm.
a grieving process that happens.
Mhm.
What are the
Mhm.
steps of the grieving process? We know there's anger, we know there's
Mhm.
coping, we know there's bargaining, we know all of those things, right? Where you know, let me tell you something that I've done. And you, if you guys are, you didn't even got to put your business out there, just blink. Listen, you ever been in a situation where you know you got let go of something, right? But it becomes so difficult. You start saying, if I'm giving up, this is this is a minor example. If a red car passes by, then that's a sign I need to let this go. Just blink.
Just blink.
Just blink.
How many times? How many times?
Right. How
Right.
many times?
Uh,
Right.
Right. And you know what, Alkema? It be like little silly stuff. Like I usually
Uh-huh.
cause situation, but it just be like, if I turn this page and it has this on it, then that's my sign. I'm gonna let him go, or I'm gonna remove myself, or I'm gonna quit that job, or I'm gonna end that friendship. We do those
yeah,
little things, you know. And I
yeah.
want to talk about us trust, because Vana said something um about intuition. We're gonna get into that, because that's a big thing that I notice. A lot of women, we really need to cultivate our relationship with our inner wisdom. We
Mm,
don't have that relationship because we come from environments where you're constantly told what to do, and no one has
Mhm.
taught you how to listen
Mhm.
good
and be
teaching.
obedient to that inner
Mm.
voice. But so I just touched on the two things in Zinga spoke about. But Alkema, you want to talk about letting go? But before I go to Alkema, let me go through some few people. My aunt, I see you. Peace, sis. Peace and love to you. Um, Danique says, "Good day at Hanifa Nayela and Company." That sounds like a whole LLC. There are spaces that gives your spirit two cookies when you check in. This is one of them. Aww,
Oh,
that's a
that's sweet.
Aw.
compliment. Wanna say Hanifa understands life on a whole other level. Oh, that's a
Mhm,
I'm humbled.
mhm,
She talking about us, yeah. She said, I can't play with my life like that. So Wanna didn't blink with us. She didn't blink with us. But
mhm.
go ahead, Alkema. Let's talk about letting go. Like, what have you learned in this season about letting go?
Oh wow. All the challenges. I'm still letting go of a lot of my past life that I like to call. Like you had mentioned earlier, it's not an easy feat. It's not. Especially when you've grown accustomed to doing something uh oftentimes your whole life long,
Mhm.
or being with someone that, as you know, Hanika, my own personal story with, I was on and on again, off again relationship for years,
Mhm.
a long time.
Mhm.
And and every time I thought I was done and let go, it was complete. And here I go, right back in the swing of things all
Wait,
over.
hold up. I have a question. Do you
Okay.
mind saying how long? Because somebody might be something longer.
Oh yeah. It was oh, yeah. I think something like 15 years.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, 15 years, on again, off again, on again, off again. It got to a point then if things started to get discombobulated, it just became ridiculous, really, really at some point. But you grow, you learn,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
go through it. It wasn't all horrible, we're still, friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think what we held on to for so long, because it was a friendship. The underlying baseline was a friendship, strong one. But then you grow in different directions, and then it just doesn't make any sense anymore.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing here?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so the letting go process, like as you mentioned, is not easy when you start to grow accustomed to um as far as relationships are concerned, being with the same person for so long, you know what I'm saying? All your family know their family and vice versa. And, you know, you guys are like at the hip.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, so there can be some challenges for sure in letting go, especially the long for when you've been in it for so long and
But
dealing.
here's the thing when you just said, you know what came to my mind when you just said that?
Mm,
Letting go is not necessarily like one thing or a destination, right? It's a journey itself.
it's a process,
It's a whole process in itself.
no
That
doubt.
letting go process, that's what Nzinga was talking about, like the grieving process, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah, because and here's the other thing you said something like when we're letting go to, you know what I found? We can actually beat ourselves up.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Because we
Definitely.
say, yeah, because most of the times we are 5 years late and letting go, mad
Hmm.
late
Mhm.
and letting go. We should have let go 5 years
Mhm.
ago. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And you
Mhm.
start thinking about all the things that
Hmm.
coulda, woulda, shoulda
Hmm.
happened had you let go when you knew you were supposed to let go. You know, when that red car drove by that you said if you saw it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so many different emotions involved. You dealing with
Yeah.
um, fear,
Yeah.
fear of, oh my gosh, you know, what's next? Because, you know, I've been doing this for so long. What is it going to look like if I'm not doing this anymore?
Mm-hmm.
You dealing with embarrassment. Oh, what will other people
Mhm.
say? You know, what are they going to think about me? That, you know what I'm saying? I said I wasn't going to do this no more. Here I am doing it again. You know what I'm saying? So the shame of that. And, you know, so it's just like it's a huge emotional roller coaster. Real talk. It's a lot of emotions involved.
Wow, you brought up shame. I didn't even consider that
Mhm.
in a letting, like in the letting go process, how people could experience shame. And I think for me, oh gosh, I mean, we could do a whole show on shame.
Mm,
Shame keeps a lot of us trapped.
yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
Shame keeps a lot of us trapped in situations that we know we don't need to be in. And
no
it
doubt.
doesn't necessarily have to be relationships. You know what I'm saying? It could be a whole lot of stuff. And here's what I want to say to that. And this is me countering shame in this moment.
Hmm.
You have the right to change your mind at any time.
Yeah,
Yes.
That is
Yes.
your right. You
yeah,
have the right to change your mind at any time. It
yeah,
doesn't make you a bad person. It
yeah,
doesn't even make you fickle. You could
Yeah.
say, no. I know people who have been on jobs for 2 months and was like, this ain't it, and
yeah,
resigned. Like it
yeah.
for some of us, it just doesn't take that long. You know, I know
Yeah.
people who in the dating process and they know within a week or two. Yeah, yeah, no, this ain't it.
Hmm.
Mhm.
You get what I'm saying? Go ahead,
You
Alkama.
you know when I recognize that shame is on the is present is when I start making excuses for my behaviors.
Mm.
So when I'm talking to somebody and I have to say, but you know, I'm doing this because of this or that or that or that. You know how we do. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's when you can recognize that shame is somewhere close.
Mhm.
Wow.
When you have to excuse your behaviors.
Because
And I think.
the shame won't allow you to own it.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Give me 1 minute,
You have to
Nzinga. I'm
justify.
coming to Yeah, I'm coming to you. I see some new people come in. Peace to Quantum. Peace to the lovely ladies on the chat. Hi, sis. Thank you as usual for the support. I saw Mr. Sir Hale speak. He says, hey, beautiful ladies. Peace and welcome to you, Mr. Sir Hale. It's always a pleasure. Nzinga. Oh, wait. Who is this? I see Denari. Past experiences can help guide present and future ones. Agreed.
Sorry.
Agreed. And Nzinga, you wanted to jump in there. Go ahead.
That's exactly what I was about to say when I was listening to Elcom. When I was listening to what you had said before Elcomore came in, it just made me think when you just now made the comment of saying that you got some people who, you know, it probably won't take 5 years for them to know, like, this just not for me, you know. But I do know that some of them may have gone through what one of us have gone through before, meaning like they may have gone through their process already, you
Yes.
know.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's why I try my best through it all, through all of the different changes in my life, I try my best to be grateful for all of them. You know, because like you said, sometimes we can get in those moments where it's just like, oh my God, why did I do that? I could have been so much further along than where I am. And, you know, all of the would have, could have, like you said. But when we move from the space of, you know, like, you know what, I'm grateful for that experience, because if that experience did not excuse me, if that experience did not happen for me, I wouldn't have the knowledge that I have now. So moving into these next, you know, relationships or, you know, friendships or whatever, you are crystal clear about what you're looking for. You're crystal clear about what you're not going to accept. You're crystal clear about yourself. You know what I mean? You're clear about some things about yourself, going back to, you know, these things about ourselves that make us do certain things. If you aren't clear about maybe the fact that you have people pleasing tendencies, or maybe you have abandonment issues, or maybe you need other people to validate you, you feel that you need other people to validate you. If you aren't clear about those things, what happens is that now you move into another relationship and you're dealing with the same thing all over again. So these experiences that we go through in these different relationships and situations, we learn more about ourselves, hopefully. And when we learn more about ourselves, which is the reason that caused us to be with certain situations longer than what we should have in the first place, it helps us in the next run around to be like, you know what? I know this about myself. I know that I, you know, need help in this area, or I know that I'm evolving and growing and healing in this area, and I'm not going to put myself back in that situation ever again. You know, so looking at experiences from a place of gratitude and a place of knowing, you know, like I'm grateful for that experience, because if it were not for that experience, I would not have known a little bit more about myself than what I did prior to that experience.
Yes, yes. And it's funny, as you when you said that, I'm glad you brought that up, because you talked about having an attitude of gratitude, in other words, right? But and it's very interesting how when we are grateful for the good and the bad, right? We can then begin to see the reason for the bad and not just the reason for the good. But if we just have an attitude and we want to curse the bad and praise the good, you know, you miss the lessons that
you miss the lessons
bad had to offer you. So when you were talking, what I wrote down is the maturity that you now have in this season, you would not have had without that other season. Because we refuse to accept sometimes. We think we're ready for certain things, you know. We really do. You know how we are. We could be a little pompous and a little bit like arrogant in our abilities and so forth. But oftentimes it's only retrospect we're able to say, wow, I needed that.
I needed that
for this. Because had I not gone through that, I would not be able to deal with this right here. That thing equipped you for this thing. So it's all about how you look at stuff. And I also wrote down the angle from which you perceive a thing will determine whether you will curse it or appreciate it. So it's all about perception. It's all about how you see. It's all about that, because when you just get gratitude, it's very difficult for a lot of us to really learn how to be grateful in those experiences, like those experiences that are not comfortable, right? And where does that come from? That comes from a lot of us grew up being praised or being congratulated or being lifted up only when we do something pleasing to those around us.
Can I say
people
something?
around us oftentimes didn't know how to build us up in our mistakes or in our failures. They didn't know how to correct without condemning. And I put a status up about that: correction without condemnation. A lot of our parents, aunts, and they were not skilled in that because they also wasn't given that. So that's how we are. And we don't just deal with each other like that. We deal with ourselves like that. So when we mess up, we want to go and put our head in a hole and bury it somewhere. And going back to what Alkema said, that shame comes in. And that shame be in your ear like, ha, 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 ha. What you about to tell these people now? Now you look real stupid. right? And it takes a Alkama or a Nzinga or a Hanifa to bump into you and just have this type of conversation.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you feel the burden of that shame begin to lift. And I'm sure it's happening to all of us here right now, where it's just like, okay, I
Absolutely.
really needed that. And you start to feel
Mhm.
lighter in your spirit, you know? So that attitude of gratitude, it's not that simple. It's practice. It's practice. You have to constantly like practice, and you gotta be deliberate about it. It doesn't come naturally for most of us, because that's just not the way we're wired. We're not programmed that way, you know. I'll come out. Were you trying to say something before I check my comments?
No, but I think Nzinga had something to share. She had wanted to
Oh, go
say
ahead,
something
Nzinga.
earlier.
Yeah, I
Okay,
was
one
just
minute,
saying
Nzinga.
that.
1 minute,
Nope.
sis. So let me just go through the comments real quick. Wana, she says, experience is the best teacher. Yes, yes, and the smartest. Yes, Nzinga. Being grateful is huge. Glad to be here with you, ladies. This is Rachel Bryant Lundy. Bride confesses. Sir Hale says, excellent points. Wana says, experience taught me a lot. Absolutely. Um, oh, thank you, Sir Hill. Appreciate that comment. Danique says, you must be able to cleanse yourself of previous attachment and embrace the experiences in the lessons. Otherwise, you may take some shit everywhere and not noticing. That's true. Quantum, piece again. That's Tiffany. All right. I'll one I talking about the shame. Shame is a topic we need to talk more about, especially as
Yeah.
women. You know.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Nzinga, please.
And so I was just thinking as I was listening to you talking just now, the thing that just came to my mind was making space, right? Making space for what you ultimately really want. What I'm realizing is the things that we have in our lives, I don't want to say distractions because they're not necessarily, like I was just now saying, sometimes we go through things because we have to just kind of like go through them, to learn the lessons that we need to learn. So I don't want to say they can be distractions, but I'm not going to use the word distraction. I'm going to just say tests, right? But is that as we go through these processes, if we have something as a space holder, when we say we want something else and we have something as a space holder in its way, we ultimately are blocking the things that we say that we really want. So that thing is not going to come because we're holding space for something that we really don't want. I don't know if I'm making me think about
No,
just
you
listening
are.
to what you just now talking. It made me just think about it made me think about how when we make these changes in our lives, it really clears space for you to see a whole lot of different truths that you otherwise would not have seen if you were still in that situation. Truths about who your true friends are, truths about what people's intentions with you are, truths about all of these different things. Guys, if you didn't decide to make a move, if you just decided to just stay still, you would not have been, you wouldn't have seen these things. So now what happens is you decide to make a move, you decide to make a change, and everything is just turned over, and so now it's like you see everything for what it really is, not what you thought it was at first, but now you can see it for what it really is, and now it's just like, wow, like, oh, that's how you felt, how it was, or whatever the case may be. And it's so liberating. It's so liberating because now you can realize I don't have to waste my time with that no more. Waste my
Yeah.
time
And
trying to
Going
grow
in and
something
out.
on what I was given. Or I don't have to waste my.
Wait,
Can you
Nzinga,
hear
you
me?
going in and out, sis. Uh-oh. If you can hear me, you're going in and out. And girl, you were about to lit this place up
all
too.
right. Well,
Okay, I don't know what's going on. Let me see. Can you hear me?
okay. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, you froze again. Okay, now I see you. Nope, we can't hear you.
Y'all can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe the Wi-Fi. I don't know. Maybe something going on in the universe. I don't know. But I don't know what y'all heard me say. But all I
We heard
was saying
everything.
is just that, letting go also helps you to make room for what. Okay. Letting go also helps us to make room for what we really want in our life. Letting go
Yeah.
helps us to be able to release the things that don't want to be in our lives, etc., and just help us to bring in what we really want. That's it.
Great
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Alchema.
Definitely, absolutely, I agree with that. Especially when we're moving in spirit, and I think for most of us, we know when we're moving in spirit and when we're not, because it's like it's a nagging feeling and thought that just won't leave you be, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and what I find, based on my own personal experience, is that it's never as difficult as when you get to the other side of letting go. It's never as difficult as what you believe it's going to be.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Getting there. So
Yes.
you got all these
Yes. Yes.
preconceived
Yes.
notions rolling through your mind of like I say, all the thought, the fear and anxiety and the worry and all the stuff of what's going to happen. And then when you do decide to move in spirit and let go, and you get to the other side of that, and you look back and you're like, wow, that wasn't so bad after all.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the emotional what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, trauma, for lack of better words, comes about on in the process of trying to hang tight, trying to cling on, trying not to move and maneuver in spirit.
Ooh.
That's just my personal.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Hey Tata, you're not late. You are right on time. You are right
Mhm.
on time. She says, "Wow, I need to get there of letting go to get that feeling." Wana said, "In Zinga, Wana said that was a whole devil girl interrupted your internet connection."
A whole one.
Yes. And Alkema, you just dropped some gems. There's hit when I was listening to you guys, Nzinga was talking about like, you start to see things differently or see things as they are. And I wrote down in my book, a shift in consciousness affects all of our senses. You don't just
Okay.
see different, you hear different, you feel different,
Okay.
right? You all of us, you ever been through something where your consciousness got elevated so much that certain foods taste different to you? I mean, this thing it's real, right?
And
Because
even look different.
everything exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
It
But
looks
here's the
different.
thing.
Yes. I
You know
love
the you know the
this.
best. Yeah, you know the best example of that, men and women. If you're in the comment section, again, y'all could just blink. You don't have to nod your head, says. But you ever been in a situation with someone and you're with them, and then all of a sudden you have a shift in your consciousness, and all of a sudden you realize this person have a big old knot on their head, and they've not been there for the 3 years you've been with them, and you just never really like made a big deal out of it, and all of a sudden it's like, why the hell you got that big old knot on your head? Ew, that's ugly looking. But you've been with them for 3 years. Are you like, look, my example, and that's a physical thing, but you start to notice certain characteristics
Mhm.
in people, and you'll be
Yes.
like, oh, you selfish. Or you know what happened is they never changed. Your consciousness shifted. You change. I always tell people, you want to change the circle around you, change yourself. The circle around you have to
Yes.
adjust to that change. There is no way around it. That's almost universal
Yes.
law. If you
Yeah.
shift yourself, your circle has to follow suit. I don't know if
Mhm.
it's an energetic thing. You guys could help me out here, but I noticed that. Stop putting your labor into, we in February. Every year people is like delete black, January is the cutoff month. Okay, we blocking and we deleting, and I'm like, that's just too much labor. Focus on yourself.
Mhm.
The people will delete. The people who are not in
Yeah.
alignment with you are going to delete themselves. The situations that does not come into alignment with where you see yourself going, those things, all of a sudden you find yourself fired. Now that sounds horrible, right? But it's like you change it, and Your job is like, well, here's your termination. No, you hurt. But then when you look back, you're like, whoa, if that didn't happen, I'd have sat there for another 2 years. And that was totally against what it is, like what it is that where I saw myself going. So start pouring all that labor into cutting people off. That now, if it's a situation that's unhealthy, absolutely. But we focus so much on other people.
Yeah.
Other people versus ourselves. And what happens is you could change your circle anytime and as many times. You know who goes with you every time? Yourself. So if you don't change yourself, here's what's going to happen. You're going to build another circle that's exactly the same as the other circle you left, with just different people in it.
No growth.
No growth. But I'll come out. Let me just go through the comments real quick. So I can move on. Quantum say yes. My sister yes. Juana is laughing. She said, me after 8 years of marriage, I noticed the knot. And I was like, I can't live like this.
Oh no.
Yeah. And let me just say this too. A lot of us, we're Black, and most Black people in America, they come from Christian backgrounds. There's so much that's connected to what goes into like leaving a relationship. How come you talk about the shame of it, and the embarrassment? There's a lot of that goes on because we start to think, well, what would people say about me? What would they, would they judge me? Nzinga talked about people being afraid to start over, right? A lot of people, especially women, we are so occupied with our age. There's an age for everything. You know what I'm saying? Well, it's too late for me to do that, or I need to get this done by this age. We are very, very much consumed with the age piece, right? Because we have that clock. So when people are in relationships, it could be like 20 years relationship. It's like, where the hell am I going? I might as well just sit my behind still. I done dealt with it for 20 years. You know what I'm saying? A very this, type of way of thinking about it. But yeah, that happens in relationships all the time. Go ahead. Somebody say something?
I think Nzinga stuck again. Okay.
Oh, Zinga, you were saying something? You're freezing.
No, I
again.
wasn't saying anything. Can y'all hear me though?
Yeah, but you kind of going in and out a little bit. Okay, so I want to move on to the next piece, which is we talked a lot about letting go, and then wait, I think somebody. Okay, I got you, Nzinga. Let's talk about moving on, y'all. Oh gosh. Let's talk about moving on. Because the reason why I added moving on to this, what I realized is that some people move on. It's like you're in a house and then you pack your bags and you go on the road and you're walking, and all of a sudden, it's like things get tough and you're tempted to go back. Even though the situation is not the best, you're tempted to go back there. You know what I mean? You find yourself saying things like, maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe you start talking to yourself like, girl, you like to exaggerate things. You know what I'm saying? I think you may have overreacted. So moving on, I wanted to talk about it because that as well is a process, right? And there are a lot of people who begin the process of moving on and they resort back to their old self.
Yeah.
It gets tough. What are you guys' thoughts on moving on? If you have your own personal experience, what are you guys' thoughts around that? What do you think hinders us from actually moving forward?
I guess it would depend on the circumstance and situation, and I'm sure it varies for each individual. But you brought up a good point with sometimes we sway back and forth when it's time to move on, the move on process. And I think that is because, like with anything, habit forming. If you're moving on to something new and brand new, it's more convenient to go back to what you've been knowing, all along. And so you find yourself swaying. If you're not careful, you'll find yourself back to what's most convenient, has been the most convenient thing in your life. But I think it's a process. It's a process. Like for me, it's certain instances in my life, I find that, I have an epiphany and I tell myself, oh, okay, so this is how it's going to be from here on out. and I move in that direction, but then I find the familiarity on the road. So I was like, okay, let me take this road here. I remember this used to be comfortable for me. And so I sit and lay in that for a while. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm supposed to be moving on though. Let me get up from here and keep going. So I think that's a natural process though of life, because like you began the program sharing how we tend to, it's human nature for us to want to just be comfortable and cozy, and we find comfort in the familiarity of it all. So I think unless it's like a drastic, immediate shift in change, like heaven forbid a death or something that you don't have no other choice but to move on from. But if you know what I'm saying, but if you have choices in the matter, I think it's a little bit um, um, I think that most people tend to kind of sway back and forth before they decide to just move on completely, cut and dry, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I have a question for you ladies, building on what Alkama just said. You talked about comfortability, and immediately I wrote in my notes, what's the cost of comfortability?
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
That's a good question.
there's a lot.
What
Um,
is it? Let's get into it. What is
yeah.
the cost of comfortability? What are we sacrificing for the sake of being comfortable? What are we giving
Stagnation,
up? What are we
Yes,
losing
I
for the
like that.
sake of being comfortable? Go ahead.
Some,
stagnation in growth.
hmm
Stagnate. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. It's like when the more comfortable you become, and you're not growing.
Yeah.
You're not growing and you're not reaching higher heights. And so you're stagnant in your growth. And so that can tra- transition into all kind of things. So dreams, goals, and aspirations get put to the sidelines. Again, that shame comes back up into
Yeah.
play, because now you're
Yeah.
feeling guilty and sorry for yourself, because you should be doing something greater, uh, but you're not. So yeah.
And I would add on to that. I would say your peace of mind,
And,
and
then are you
depending on the
saying something?
situation. Can y'all hear me?
Alkama may not hear you. I can hear you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. I can't.
I would say your peace of mind. I would say sometimes your integrity, and just like Elkamore just now said, depending on what the situation is, even when we talk about stagnation, it's one of them things where, that stuff can transform into other ways in our being, like within our spirit, when we're not living in alignment with what we really want to do and be and how we want to show up in this world. It becomes this thing where it's like, your body start, having deformities formed in it, within it, you know what I mean? And then we start getting sick and all these different things start happening. So what do we sacrifice for comfort? We sacrifice a lot. We sacrifice a lot. In particular, I would just like to say, just our peace and our health, our well-being, you know what I mean? Our
Alkama, you can
wholeness.
hear Nzinga.
I can hear it now. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Good. Go ahead, Nzinga. I apologize.
Yeah, that's what's it. I was just saying our peace of mind, our wholeness, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
um our health is compromised when we stay in comfort.
I
Yeah,
think.
I was thinking as you guys were talking. Again, I'm just jotting down notes because I'm pulling stuff out of you guys. But I put down, and I know this might sound a little extreme, but I put stagnation is anti-nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in nature, there's a cycle. So if you're stagnant, you're not allowing that cycle of life to take place. You're not allowing that cycle, that natural cycle, your evolution, that's a part of your evolution, to take place. So what you're doing is you're fighting nature at that point,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're fighting nature. You are creating a blockage where there shouldn't be any,
Yes.
right? Because I tell people all the time, the alchemy that we talking to today, I could tell you If she has no blockage and she's allowing light to take its place, it's not the same Alkema we're going to speak to next week.
Yes.
That is how this works. So if you find that you are wrong people or yourself, that you constantly in the same place, it's almost like you're in a time loop. You find yourself around the same types of people, in the same types of relationships, you have a blockage somewhere. Because that means that you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And if that isn't resolved, what happens? That leads to death. That's not life. That's death at some point. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to add that in. But Alchem, I see you wanted to say something. Go ahead, sis.
Yeah, a couple of things. What comes to mind was when people say things like, "Oh, that's just who I am. That's who I am. I always been this way." That's not a compliment, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's really not a compliment to yourself.
That's a good
Because,
point, Alchem.
yeah, because that's saying that you ain't growing up. That's
Oh,
just who I
you mean
am.
like when we tell our friends, "Girl, you ain't changed."
Mm-hmm.
Right, you ain't changed.
That's a compliment.
You telling somebody about yourself, and you're like, well, that's I always been this way. This is just who I am, and things like that. And it's like, well, when are you gonna be anything different?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I don't see that as a compliment, because that to me,
That's a very good point.
That's
Because
an
some of us,
excellent point.
yes, that's an excellent point. We don't think about that. We actually be like, yeah, I mean, I keeps it real.
yeah.
Since I was like 5. And these are people from elementary school, and you're like, girl, you haven't changed. But you're saying, Alkema, we should not take that as a compliment, because what they're saying is that you haven't really grown much.
Mm-hmm.
I did a program on here. Let me make sure I shout out the OG Patrice. Peace to you. Thank you for coming in as usual and for your support. I had a program, and the mental health program that I did, and I spoke to a brother afterwards, and we grew up on the island together. And he said to me, man, Hanifa, you really change. Like, I was just like, I say, everybody says that to me that grew up with me. And he's like, but that rebel spirit in you is still there. This is somebody that I know from childhood. He said that fire that you always had is still there. He's like, but you've really, really changed. So now that Alkema said that, I'm like, oh, okay, that was like a nice compliment,
Right.
Versus saying you ain't change, you ain't gonna never change. You know what I mean?
Right. You ain't changed a bit.
Yeah. And Zinga, you wanted to say something?
No, I didn't have anything else to say.
Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about moving on. When we are in the process of moving on, in you guys' opinion, how important is the support system and the circle that you build around you during that process?
Ooh.
It's crucial.
What does that need to look like? Is really the question I want to ask. What does that need to look like?
You gonna go first, Alcamore?
I will. I'll share a story. Sometimes you don't even know what it's going to look like until you get into that space. I'll tell you a true story. I decided that I wanted to move out of the country to Tanzania. And again, spirit moving me. And so I'm like, I don't know nobody in Tanzania like that. I don't, you know what I'm saying? How am I gonna do that? My whole life is here. My family, everybody, got a grandbaby, what is that gonna look like? But I could not get that notion out of my head. It's the push to, you really need to be somewhere else. And so I said, okay, I need a support system. I didn't have one. And so I created a Facebook group, moving to Tanzania from America, because it was a selfish reason for that, because I needed support. I needed people around me who understood, or at least would be in the same vein or understanding. And so I created that group out of needing a support system around my decision. And I was surprised at how many people joined all at the same time and was all saying, I'm thank you, I needed this, I'm thinking about the same thing, I appreciate it. And I was like, whoa, wow, so I'm not out here alone. So to your question, sometimes the support system, you don't even know what it looked like until,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, you create it yourself.
And I would say, Elkamar, I agree with you. That's a beautiful story, by the way. Beautiful story. And I'm in the group, y'all. I'm just letting y'all know I'm in the group. I love it. But yeah, because it's funny when you said it, because when I first saw the group, I'm like, moving this. I didn't even think about that. I'm like, you know what? Let's move. Like, hold on 1 second. But when I think about the circle that you need, I would think of the word. Yeah, excuse me. The children in the background knocking on the door, trying to come in. So please work with me.
Get it.
But when I think about what support system would look like, Elkamar, I agree with you. Sometimes you don't know what it looks like. But I will say one thing that I would definitely know that I needed and that I still need is acceptance of my decision, right? And when I say acceptance of my decision, I'm saying accepting that that's just what it is. For those who's going to move forward with me during my process. Some people don't want to move. Once you make certain decisions, they like, nah, I'm not rocking with you no more. And that's fine. It hurts. But it's to be expected. That was part of the process, because everybody not gonna rock with you, and you got to be okay with that. And I realize I'm okay with that, right? But acceptance from the people that say, we're gonna move forward. We're gonna move forward. What does that look like now? What that looks like in terms of this acceptance phase is, don't try to convince me of the decision that I made, and don't try to convince me to go back, or don't try to convince me to make amends, or don't try to convince me. I just need you to accept that I made that decision and that I'm moving in a different direction. Now, if you don't want to accept it, then, we got to work out what we got to work out within our relationship. But I'm saying that acceptance was very important, and is still very important when it comes to you letting go and making, changes within your life, especially when it pertains to when you had a lot of people, that were involved in the decision making, you know what I mean, or within your decision. It's just like acceptance, like that's just what it is, yeah.
That's very true. That's very true, because oh boy, that's a lot in that. There's a lot in that, where that's why I asked the question where the circle matters. But I want to, every time you guys talk, I'm jotting down notes. So I want to make sure that I let you guys know what I got from what you said. What I got is protect your growth. That's another saying of mine. Protect your growth, but do not hide your change.
Oh, yes.
Protect your growth, but do not hide your change. And the reason that came from when Alkamar was speaking, because what you did is you put your change out there. You put the call out. You see what I'm saying? You didn't have to do a whole lot of labor. You just put it out there, start a group, and the people came, and the help came. You created a space for the help that you needed.
Yes, I love that.
Right? So that's why I say you protect your growth. And when I say that, I mean, I speak to what Nzinga said. I don't need you to tell me I need to make up with my mother. I need you to accept that I have separated from her because she's toxic. Now, the mother-daughter, mother-son dynamic, because of the high rate of single parents in our community, there is this thing that's there around matriarchs. They're just, you know how I feel about that, Alkamar. They're infallible. They cannot be touched. And I know why. Okay. It's almost like you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Right. So a lot of us, we are very uncomfortable when people say, I don't mess with my family like that. It makes us very uncomfortable. We don't know what to do with that. But we immediately, our first impulse is to tell them to go fix it. And you know what we do? We gaslight people. That's the only mother you're ever gonna have. You don't know if that's the last time you saw her. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, you need to go fix. Like, we gaslight each other versus saying, Alkema, I hear you. I understand. What do you need from me?
Mm.
It's
But
so
you know what?
difficult for us to do that because we're so used to controlling the narrative around us. And that means even trying to control the narrative of the people around us. It's about us being comfortable. So I need Nzinga to be who I envision her to be, or to be who I expect her to be. I don't need Nzinga to change. I need her to be Nzinga because that's what works for my comfortability and my life. Go ahead, Nzinga.
Now, I was just about it. Just what you just now said made me think that a lot of times, a lot of us don't even have the vernacular that we need to articulate what you did. We don't even know how to
Yeah.
communicate. We call it gaslighting because we are aware of it. Some people
Yes,
don't even
yes.
have they don't even have no
Yeah.
ill intentions. They
Yeah.
just think that they doing the
Very
righteous
true.
thing. Like,
Very
you only
true.
got one mother, whatever the case may be. They just think they doing the righteous thing. But that goes back to these generational ways of how we just it's just how we show up for ourselves, and then how we project that onto other people,
Yeah.
sometimes knowingly and sometimes unknowingly, that we do that. But you just made an excellent point in saying that people deal with you, oftentimes people deal with you based off of who they need you to show up to be. Like,
Absolutely.
when you can't show up to be who they don't want you to be, they really don't even need you anymore. Like, you don't even serve a purpose
Yeah.
in my life. And see, and that
Wow.
goes back to what I was saying earlier, that when those type of situations come about, it clears space, because you don't have to keep on thinking in the back of your mind, like, is this for me, or is this me and this person are super cool, this is my BFF or whatever. When situations happen and the smoke is cleared, you can see those people for who and what and where they are, and you can just begin to move on truth now, not on what you thought. You
Mm,
could begin to move on truth now. So going through
mm,
our processes actually help us to get clear about who, what, and where we are presently,
mm-hmm,
and be able
mm-hmm.
to move on that.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
make a little bit of a shift real quick, and Alchem, I see you. I think I need to say this, so I'm just gonna say it on confirmation. And this is probably, I don't know if it's for one of you guys or somebody in the chat, but confirmation. Whoever needs to hear this, you do not need any more confirmation.
Mm.
Mhm.
Move in what you know already. You
Mm.
still sitting around waiting for a 10th confirmation. You don't have 9 of them joints. 9. Stop looking for 10 and 11 confirmation. You have everything you need already. Move in it. Move in your talents, move in your abilities, move in your skills, move in your knowledge. You don't need any more confirmation. Stop looking for it, because now you're using your search for confirmation as a crutch and as an excuse to not do
Mm.
what you know you're supposed to do.
Mm. Can I speak? Can
I
I speak
don't
to that?
need that. Go ahead.
I would love have very well said.
That
Very
was
well
very
said.
well.
Actually, that brought hairs up on my arms. And again, recently when I decided that I wanted to move to Tanzania, and I didn't know what my steps were going to be, right? What steps A, step B, step C. And I was saying, I sat down on my couch one night just out the blue, and I booked a ticket to Tanzania. I said, I'm going there, and I'm going to stay a month. And I told you guys, I don't know nobody there. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have no connections, didn't have any serious connections there. Didn't know where I was going to stay. I don't know who I'm going to talk to when I get there. I still don't know. Really, I don't have them all, and I'm leaving March 1st. But I booked that ticket, and the whole time I was so nervous. So
Mm-hmm.
many thoughts going through my head. What are you doing? What do you mean? Oh, why are you going to stay in a foreign land that, what I'm saying, for a whole month? Where you going? All these thoughts are coming through my head at the same time that I'm going through the process of booking this flight. And it was many a times in the process, it's like I'm looking for the best, you know, flight and the dates and the tickets, and the whole time my mind is like, you can't do this. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
fighting in my head. Yes, you can. What do you
Mm-hmm.
mean? I'm going to. So I'm having a battle of wits inside of my head. And to your point, Hanifa, just moving in that, even when you're not sure, even when you're not
Yes.
don't know what it's going to look like on the other side, even when you're afraid, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? When you feel it, you're gonna be afraid.
Absolutely.
That's not saying, don't be scared. That's a human nature. You're gonna be afraid, but move anyway. Move
Mhm.
anyway through that. And and for 2 days afterwards, my stomach was in knots. Because now I'm like, oh my God, now I gotta go. All this money I spent on this
What
plane
did I
ticket,
do?
you going. But my
You're
stomach,
going.
right. Because now I'm like, oh my God, what am I do? What am I do? And things just started coming together like magic. The people on the continent waiting for me to get there, and things are, so it's like, when you move, when you decide, when you make the decision and move in it, it's like the universe is just waiting on you to decide, so they can assist, and so they can help you out. And so yeah, I'll end there,
No,
but
you're
That
fine.
was
You're fine. I
beautiful.
mean,
Right. That's
that's
so
you're talking
inspiring.
about. You're pretty much talking about faith at the end of the day. Like you're talking about what people call faith,
yeah,
right? Just not knowing, not even knowing all the details, but knowing enough to move. You know
right,
what I mean? You know that there's a step for you to step down on, but you don't know if there's a step after that step. But you're
right,
gonna take that step because you know that first step is there. That's
yeah,
pretty much what that is. And it's funny because it is magical because you find that every step you take, another one appears. Another one appears, right? We are not alone. We are never alone out here. But I want to make sure I say hi to everyone that I saw coming in. Colette said hi. Oh, my sister said hi. Peace says.
thank
Um,
you.
Tiffany said we're speaking to her. This is why I
Ah,
wanted to
yeah,
have this because let me tell y'all, I've been really trying to hone in on what, and this is a candid moment for me, on what I really want my Fridays and my channel to be about. And I was like, what's missing in this space? And I feel like we don't talk enough about self-development. We
Mm-hmm.
want each other to build community in our brokenness. And it's difficult. It's difficult. So we have to talk more about shifting our mindset, shifting our consciousness, shifting, certain bad patterns that was passed down to us. But that has to take place with self. The community itself has to happen first before I could join with Nzinga, without biting her. Or join with Alkema without being jealous of her. That work has to be done first. So I'm like, you know what? This is what I do good. This is what I'm good at. This is what I do best. I'm about like encouraging and provoking people and building them up. So I'm like, if I could just find a couple of people to have these conversations, I want to bring them to the public. But I
yeah,
want to take a quick pause and I'm going to play a little game with those who are watching because it's 12 of y'all in here right now. And the ladies, you guys can tell me. But in the comment section, if you were to name this chapter of your life, what would it be?
mm,
Mm.
And I want you guys to participate in the comments. If you were to name this chapter of your life, what
mm.
would it be called?
Oh, I'm so curious to see what they're gonna
Yeah,
say.
me too.
What you got to say?
So, guys, we're waiting for y'all, and I'm sure I'm gonna be highlighting y'all comments. But you ladies can jump in if you guys
I
want. If
was
you
gonna
guys go ahead.
I was gonna ask you a quick question. Can you, the comment that you just now made with regards to us being able to make these shifts necessary so we don't collide when we do come into community with one another or whatever the case may be, what would you suggest are some ways that people can begin to change their paradigm, to change their mind, to change their perspective and perceptions of certain things? What steps should one take to make that happen?
That's a good question. So here's one of the things I'll use from my own personal experience and from people around me that I know. We are distracted tremendously. There's a lot of noise around us. A lot. I mean, from the time you wake up, even in your dream world, because you're taking it into your dream world as well. So one of the
Mm,
things I
mm,
always say is that we have to we have to do. We have to find time to do. Like I saw that you're promoting like a retreat.
Yeah.
We have to find time away, because anyone that knows, who have sat with themselves long enough, people who do meditation will tell you that it transformed their lives, because
Yeah.
now they are able to sit with their own thoughts. And there is a vault of rich knowledge in all of us. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you think about yourself. I don't care what your upbringing was. You have a wealth of information sitting inside of you, waiting for you to tap into it. But you can't do that if you're constantly distracted. I gotta get this career. I gotta get the bag. I gotta be on social media. I gotta be in the in. Because we're living in a time right now where people feel like if it's not on social media, it's not real.
So true.
So if Alchemy is saying I'm doing the work in my community, people's receipts says, well, I don't see it on social media. So we live in that time where it's like most of us our way of connecting is staying on these platforms. Otherwise, outside of them, we feel disconnected. That's just the age that we're in. But can that be undone? Yes. You will have to unplug to do so. So the main thing for me and Zinga to answer your question is time spent alone with your own thoughts, with your own self, right? We want to be master at everything. You hear, and Zinga, you're an entrepreneur. We hear people talk about master your craft and all of these things. We need to talk more about mastering self.
Yes.
Because in Zinga, I shouldn't be able to. No one outside of you should be able to tell you more about yourself than you. You should be the one informing them. You should be the expert in Zinganess.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So yes, spending time with yourself, hearing your thoughts, sorting your thoughts out, learning about yourself, learning your triggers, learning what you don't like. Because here's the thing in Zinga that I learned: the more we do that, the less performative we are.
Ooh, so true. I agree.
The more we do that, you be like, I ain't got time for that, because you're about to put me in a space where I have to pretend, and I don't pass that. We're not pretending. So I hope that answer your question, because that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, it does. It does.
But the audience is answering us. So let me see. Tiffany said her chapter will be called Deep Reveal.
Ooh,
I like that.
Yes.
Deep Reveal. Let me see. Sean said it's a new season in your life, and it's time to shed all those likes and begin a new chapter by subscribing to life affirming content from these ladies. Shout out to Ashan. He's so brilliant, by the way. Over the top says hers will be called this chapter in her life is Legacy of Over the Top. I love that.
Yes.
I love that. My sister said this chapter is called for her still learning. That is so humble. I love that. Oh, Rachel says creator and manifester.
Ooh, yes.
Yes. Wait, this person here says the end game.
Ooh. Period. Okay.
I love these guys. If you haven't sent in yours, just keep them coming. Arshan says, point to the vessels that pour into the blessings, the vessels that pour into you. Please help continue and grow the platform by giving. Cash App, Goddess Hanifa. Shout out to Arshan, one of the best moderators in these YouTube streets. I appreciate you tremendously. But yes, I hope I answered your question, and it was a good question. I would say that's where you start. And you're right. A lot of people, in saying I'm gonna have a little bit. I'm gonna push back a little bit on, because we say this a lot. Well, people just don't know. You know what I've learned? We know.
Yeah.
We know. Because you know how I know we know? A lot of things happen, and you know what we say? I knew. What the issue is that a lot of us have been raised or socialized out of trusting ourselves.
Oh, that's it right there. I know. Go ahead. I know for me, I know along my journey, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier when we were saying that if we did not go through certain things in our lives, we would not have been privy to knowing certain things about ourselves. So I know for me, the way that I grew up in a very both of my parents was drug addicts. Watched them go back and forth fighting. My father used to beat my mother up all the time, like really gruesomely beating her up, busting her head with bottles and sticks with nails in it. My mother having to be, taken to the paramedics. Through the paramedics ambulance several times. My father being incarcerated for years for attempted murder, for attempting to kill my mother stabbing my father up because it's this drug stuff,
Yeah.
And then like around 5 years of age, now I have 7 siblings. All of us went into foster care because my grandmother was also an alcoholic, so she couldn't. We was all living with her. Me, my mother, father, all of us was living with her, and we couldn't all stay there after my mother had went to jail and etc. Right. So what I noticed about myself is that not to say that story in a way that's like it's just a part of my story.
Yes,
I
of
can't
course.
change that part of my story. But that story shaped me in a way before I became conscious of it. It shaped me in a way where I grew up so afraid. I didn't feel safe for a long time going to different, group homes and overnight cares. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it's like a thing where you stay at one person's house and then you leave, and then the next night you go stay at somebody else's house, and just constantly doing this in the foster care system. And I grew up in this way of just not feeling safe. And so I felt like I always needed other people to validate me, to tell me, hey, I'm proud of you doing a good job. You're amazing. You're talented. You're beautiful. All of these different things. And that when that type of mindset of an individual, when you get in the wrong type of hands, somebody can take that and do whatever the heck they please with it, because they understand that, they understand that you're not at your best. You understand what I'm saying? And it took me having to get older, having to not get older, being developed in a way that would help me now at 36 to say to myself, like, yeah, you need to make sure that you protect yourself in that way, because that's an aspect of you that is vulnerable, that you're still growing through, that you're still loving yourself through, and you need to be mindful of that. You need to be mindful of the people that you bring in your space, so they don't, you don't give them the power to, control you in that way. You know what I mean? So I agree with you. That was all I was trying to say. I don't know why the whole story came out, but
No, it needed to.
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm sorry, Hanifa.
No,
I have a
Alchema, go for
question.
it.
Yeah.
How did you come to that realization that you need to protect that part of yourself? How did you know?
I came to that realization by I would say being in spaces where being in spaces where I don't know how to answer that. I would just say that I came to that realization when I began to learn more about myself, and I felt like the people that I was coming in contact with took advantage of it, and when I say took advantage of it, I mean took advantage. Just people who just didn't value that, didn't look at that as something like, oh, this is a part of that person. This person may just be like maybe, they took advantage of that aspect of me. So that's how I came
Did they know that part of your story though?
Oh yeah. Okay. About far as my upbringing, yes.
Can I say something to that too? What Alchema just asked. So here's what I know. A lot of us, when we have unresolved stuff, we wear the residue of it. And people who are predators can sniff that mess out.
Yeah.
Like that's real. That's a real thing. That's why you talk about foster care. That's why they call we would say the kids that are in foster care, they are at higher risk of being trafficked
Mm-hmm.
because they're looking for love and
Mm.
validation. And then
Mm.
here comes this pimp who is able to buy them what they need, tell
Mm.
them what they need to hear, show them love, even though it's unhealthy, but they really don't even know what healthy love look like
Yeah.
because they're coming from environments. And by the way, in Zinga, I've worked in the foster care agency for over 12 years, not anymore. So when you were
Mm-hmm.
saying, we call it respite, the thing care is called like
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So yes, that's why those children are more at risk, because like Zinga said, you carry this thing within yourself of, I need to be loved. Even so somebody mentioned people pleasing in the beginning, right? People pleasing is often a trauma response.
I definitely went through that
Mm.
and still go through that
Yeah,
sometimes,
and but you know what's amazing? When you ask the question, Alcom, I was like, dude. And by the way, we can ask each other questions. It's a conversation. It's fine. You know what I appreciated? The fact that Nzinga was able to identify that
Mm-hmm.
part of herself, to even know that she needed to protect it.
Right. Right.
Because so many
Yeah.
so many of us are that disconnected from ourselves that we don't even realize that there's some things in
Right.
us that we still got to heal from.
Yeah.
And that wound not just needs to be healed, it needs to be protected,
Mm-hmm.
because people smell blood.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds
Predators,
me too
vampires.
of when the what you just now said earlier when you were speaking about like when you don't fully know yourself, when you haven't done the work within yourself. I remember when back when I was 16, 17, I think I was like 16. I remember that it was because, y'all, to give y'all a little black history really quickly, when I was growing up, it used to be all about like your looks. Makes me think about our last show that we had with
Yes.
women, everything being all about looks, etc. I'm gonna try to hurry up.
You're
And
fine.
it reminds me of, it was this guy that I had ran into. He just told me all the great things of myself. You're so beautiful, you so this and that, and your body's so nice, and all these different things. And I was saying to myself, like, okay, I needed to hear this stuff. It pumped my head up, made me feel like I was a superstar or something like that. But what happened was, he didn't have intentions to be like, good for me.
Mm.
He asked me, could I go dance at a club? And he was like,
Mm.
you can really make some money. You can really make some money. I think you should try this out. Me just being just not, I wasn't protected, and I definitely didn't know any better in my mind.
Yes.
I don't want to say I didn't know any better. I just didn't. I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Somebody asked
Yeah.
me that today, I would be like, you done lost your mind. But back then, it was like, okay, this is gonna make him feel accept me or love me or something like that. And I went and did it. I
Wow.
went and did it.
It's
And
like a predator prey
and
scenario.
and as time went on, like now, when we was talking about shame and guilt and all those different things, when I look back on those stories, I'm like, gosh, that is so, like, why would you do that? That was so, I say those things to myself, but then I begin to, as I'm going through my healing process, I have grace with myself and understand you've been through a lot. You've been through a lot. Have some, thank the creator, thank the ancestors for where you are today, because some people did not have the story that you had and can stand on where you are and say the things that you have made it out of. So just thank yourself through the process, all of it.
I want to tell you right now what you make me want to do. You make me want to do this.
Beautiful.
Just hug myself.
Uh,
Oh,
Because
hug yourself. Yes.
yes, I can't
Yes.
hug you guys. So
Yes.
you just make
Yes.
my reaction to what you're saying is that, first of all, I want to say thank you
yes.
for being so transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning you. I'm learning about
Yeah.
you. Just having you on here. And I already told you I'm gonna be calling on you quite a bit. So you
Yeah.
can come back
Yeah.
and have these conversations. But
Stories.
I just feel like hugging myself right now. And
Yeah.
as you were speaking, something told me to put up what Colette said, and you went right into that. So
Yep.
Colette says we should learn to give each other more grace. Don't be so quick to throw each other away because we simply offended one another. Grace.
Yes.
A
Yeah.
lot of us, a lot of these relationships are destroyed out of lack of misunderstanding. You know,
Yeah.
and I say this all the time. We
Yes.
need to
Anika.
value each other. Because Alkema I can't call Alkema phone, just call her and she not answering. She not call. I mean, it's going on like it probably won't make it to 2 weeks, but I'm calling her, she are not answering, right? I have two decisions to make. One, I could say, well, bump her then. She ain't answering my call. Bye. And I could decide that I ain't calling her. I could even go as far as blocking Alkema's number. Or I could say, this isn't like Alkema, and I value Alkema in my life. So if there's something that is broken between us, I need to find out what it is and find out if it's fixable. The only way that I would do that if I see value in her relationship.
Yes.
I see friendships that have been friends for years, and all it takes is for one person to be like dealing with life and not answering phone calls, and then the friendship is done. 15 years invested. How does that happen? So my question often to those people is, did you value that relationship? Because if you what we value, we pursue. What we value, we pursue. If I don't value you, if I don't value Nzinga, and all of a sudden, and people go through stuff, stop assuming. We do this a lot, especially as women. People go through stuff. They don't have to answer all your calls and all your text messages. Nobody has to respond to you immediately. We are too entitled, okay? People go through stuff. Your mind shouldn't go on, she's ignoring me, especially if you know the person. Maybe just be like, she might be dealing with some stuff. Let me give her some space. Let me give her some time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think you want to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's that cancel culture that's been so, here lately, that's been like the catchphrase word, but it's a lot of truth to that. And I think it's not something we've kind of morphed into.
Yeah.
I don't think it's always been this way. This whole cancel I think it's the attention span. The attention span of people
that's a good one.
over time has shrunk so much to where even stuff like that, Hanifa, a healthy relationship, you quick to cancel that out because your ego is saying, oh well, if she don't want to call me back, well then bump her. So yeah, I think again that goes into more of acknowledging some things about your own self and things that you can take and improve upon.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say something to you, Nzinga. You are very courageous. It takes a lot of courage to be as open as you. And one of the other my favorite shows so far of Hanifa's awesome platform was the other one that you was on. And I shared that all over the place. I know people's like, leave me alone. I'm like, I took that link and I shared it with like, it had to be over 100 people.
Yeah.
Into this show. This show was amazing, dynamic, awesome. You have a lot of courage, sis. A lot. So I admire that about you.
Yes.
It's a lot of
Thank
courage.
you. Thank
You
you
to
so
get on
much. I
these public
appreciate that.
platforms and be so just be so open with who you are. Most people don't have that kind of courage.
It took me time to get to this point though, because, and I'm not even saying that y'all know everything about me. It's a lot of stuff. I got so many layers to me, but it's taking some time to build the confidence to just be like, this is my story. This is just what it is, because sometimes we get so caught up in what people going to think. And if I told them this, what would they do? And would they look at me differently? And just like, that's just your story,
And if anybody, I just want to say, Hanifa, if anybody's watching and have not seen that program, what's the name of it, Hanifa?
We can all win. We can all win.
We can all win.
Check that out. Check that show out. That show was excellent.
It was necessary too.
It was necessary. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. There was something that I was just about to say. Oh, the story piece. I used to be like that with my poetry. So poetry is like, free expression. And I found myself censoring myself because it was like, no, I can't say that, because then it opens that part of myself up and people see that part of me because and oh my God, Alkema, for me, and without going to details, I actually think that you have a powerful thing to offer around your experience as a mother.
Mm.
And you know, and I know
I
you're not
can't
there
say
yet.
that. I'm gonna take your words and spit them back out. I can't say that though. I'm coming. It's coming. No, I'm coming. Not quite
No,
yet.
no. From the first time you and I had a conversation about it, I also know that there's still some pain there, and I get how that works. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But I know it's coming. I
Mhm.
know it's coming, and you're going to help a lot of people tremendously, because there's not enough safe spaces for mothers to have those type of conversations without being crucified. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a real thing, and I can't wait for that chapter in your life where you're just like, yeah, and so this is what happened, right? You know?
I'm gonna sit at Nzinga's feet. Let me sit at her feet for about a year. I think I'll be ready then.
Yeah, okay. Look, you're gonna be telling everything. Like,
Wait, somebody said, Colette said, she says, I don't think it's cancel culture, but us not knowing how to process our feelings so we can communicate it. I actually don't. I think I agree with Colette, and I also agree with Alchemy in the sense of it's a form of cancel culture. What's happening is that we are kind of in an age where what they're pushing is a lot of selfishness. You know, you don't need these people, you don't need that, you know, like they're pushing a lot of disconnect, right, between us. And so what happens with people is once you get to that point where it's like, I don't need you, then you become something I could discard of.
Yeah.
Like Nzinga was saying, I get to use you for what I need you for. I get to extract what I need from you and discard of you like trash. Because that's kind of what the present culture is pushing. You know, being isolation. And I struggle with that, just to be honest. I was talking to my friend the other day and I said, I don't know if it has to do with being a youngest of 5. I always had siblings around because we are all like a year apart. I don't know if that contributes to it, but I can spend a lot of time by myself. I'm not this social butterfly. I am social, but I don't get my energy from being social. I get my energy from spending time by myself. And so that can happen for weeks, you know, for weeks before I actually come out my cave and be like, okay, I want to socialize today. You know, so I have to check myself and be deliberate in connecting with the people around me, however possible. And I think the people that's close to me probably recognize that, but they might not know exactly what it is. It's just that a lot of times I just kind of isolate myself because that's kind of how I recharge. You know, it's just my thing, you know, and some people recharge. That's where they get the extrovert, introvert. Some people recharge by connecting with other people and being in social settings. That's not how I recharge.
That's me right there. I'm the recharger that way.
Oh yeah, okay. Wait, let me move. We're coming to an end. We're going to be wrapping up soon, so I wanted to move to the last piece. But Tiff says, yes, honey, for what we value, we pursue in every single area in your life. That's very true. Value your journey, value your dreams, value your decisions. Yep. Oh, my sister, my mother's middle child. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Hey, sis. Guys, it's 5 of us, 5 girls. Okay, so I'm getting to the last piece now, which is changing direction. And I have to say that Alkema, your journey and where you are, because first of all, I just want to tell you that I am so freaking proud of you.
Yes.
Although you saw my little thing last night, I was having a sisterhood moment. I have sisters. I have sisters and I have sisters. Okay. I have sisters who love me and will go to war for me and bat for me and don't judge me and loves me unconditionally. And those are my blood sisters. I won't trade them in for anyone or anything. But I also have sisters who are my sisters in spirit, right? And Alkema, Tiff, like I have those and I value you guys. But last night when I came up with the topic, this last portion of it, changing direction, you inspired that because I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of you because I know that some of it I know that some of it is challenging, some of what
Mhm.
some of the changes you're going through, some of the direction shifts that you had to make or is making. Like, I know that there are things within you that like beliefs that we could talk about, that certain beliefs that we have that's now being challenged.
Yeah.
And you have a decision to make. Do I let go of this? Because we talked earlier of the fact that we're committed to certain narratives. We're
Yep.
committed to certain beliefs, whether it's the beliefs about the world around us, beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about the people, beliefs about family, whatever belief, we have them. Wherever they came from, they're there. And sometimes you might hit a juncture in your life that challenges that, and it knocks the wind out of you.
Yeah.
And like Nzinga said, even letting go of that, okay, that belief has run its course.
Right.
It's time to transcend that.
Yeah.
Right? That's a process in itself, because you're gonna
process.
cry. You're gonna cry. I'm telling you, you're gonna cry. Been there, done that. You're gonna cry about it. You're gonna hurt. You're gonna be angry about it. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna bargain. Eventually, you're gonna cope. But you're gonna go through those stages of grief because you see it as a loss. You have to detach from something that had become a part of your identity.
Correct.
That's why it's so painful. It's surgery. That thing has become one with you. So it's not just a matter of my consciousness change. No, there's some surgery that has to be done to get that thing from out of you. And some things that we believe is deeply embedded in us. Some of them much deeper than others. There's some things that we be like, yeah, I can let that go. I just learned about that 2 years ago. Okay. But then you have those things that were deposited in you when you were 5 and 6 years old. And then from the people that you trust the most and you love the most.
Yes.
So now you're like, okay, if I let this go, what does it mean for my relationship with that person now?
Right.
With my mother, with my father? Am I disloyal? Are they disappointed?
Right.
Let's talk about it. Change of direction. Let's get into that. Nzinga, you want to say something about that, or?
Well, I'll let Elka Moore go first if she would like to.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm going through a whole lot of different shifts in my life right now. And yeah, the change in direction and one Hanifa you and I spoke about is I grew up under a father who was extremely militant. He was raised part of his teachings was directly from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And he grew up in the Nation of Islam, was a Christian beforehand. So I'll give you a small, really quick example of the radicalism I followed when he latched on to the teachings of the Nation of Islam. He came home, he was married, had children. I was not born yet. And he took all the hog out of the refrigerator and the freezer and threw it out the window and tossed it out the window. And so his wife, that they were no longer eating that hog and that, that. So that's the kind of father that I grew up under, right? And so, for as long as I can remember, the teachings was black man is God, white man is the devil. That was the foundation of my spiritual upbringing. Black man is God, white man is the devil. And so, and my father was I was very close to my father. Respected him, honored him, sat at his foot and learned all the things. Very wise man. So I grew up with them same teachings. And I grew up out of all my brothers and sisters. They all tell me, my mom tell me I'm the one that's more like my father than any other of her children. And so I took on a lot of those teachings in the radical ways, and things. And, but I'm growing into a different level of understanding just through my own personal journey. Okay, it's one thing to live the teachings of what somebody else gave you and taught you your whole life long, and then have to step out of that and move on your own journey and what you've learned along the path for yourself. And a lot of not a lot, but some of the things that I was taught, I'm realizing um, was not true. It's not true, just based on my own journey. So I had to rethink and readjust some things in my life. And that's a challenge when all you knew your whole life long. And so I'm growing. It's a lot of changing in direction in my life that's going on right now. And that's one of them. Just this whole thing about race and what it entails. Is it so cut and dry? Is it so black and white? Really, is it that black and white that, every black person is a god and every person with white skin is a devil? And so I question those kind of teachings. And that has opened my mind to a whole lot of different experiences. And it's interesting because now I the same things that I conversations and people that I would, be on the front of the battlefield with my fist in the air and my RBG garb on, and I still love them people, and that's still me. But I find myself now tuning into some of those same discussions that a year or 2 years ago I would have been right in the thick of. Now, kind of sitting back and just questioning some of the things that I'm hearing. So yeah, it's just some personal growth, change in direction, and what that looks like.
I'm
That
so
was
glad that you,
beautiful.
and Colette, I'm coming to you right now. I'm so glad do you realize how brave you are?
Yes.
Mm,
Yes.
That's
Yes.
not easy.
Not
mm,
easy.
A lot of us are race loyal, sometimes to our own detriment. Like that's just the fact. You know what I'm saying? And that's brave of you to like publicly state that. And
Absolutely.
you're still in the process of that. I know
oh
you
Mm-hmm.
are.
yeah.
You
Oh
know
yeah.
what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? And prefacing it so that you could give us an idea of what it's rooted in, which is your dad,
Yeah.
who you held in such high esteem,
Yeah.
who you adored. You know what I'm saying? Who you adored. And then being told you're so much like him, is like you felt like you had to step into that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like live up to that because you admired him so much. And now here you are at this juncture in your life where you're saying, I love you, daddy.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't right.
Mm,
Yeah.
Now I have to walk my own path.
mm-hmm.
That's
You,
brave of you as well. So we just got some brave souls up here today. Okay.
can I say something really quickly to
Yes, go ahead. And then
before
I'll get to Colette.
it reminds me of Malcolm X when
Mm,
when you hear about his story and the different things that he obviously when he was in the nation and when he first came in and then when he went to Mecca and when he came back it was like it was just this transformation. He was talking about his brothers and he was saying so many different things that people wasn't used to him saying. It was like what happened? That's what I just thought about when you was just now talking.
and
And
it's, and it's
I
yeah.
really, really, really appreciate that transparency because what I'm learning about healing is that only way for us to truly heal, we gotta be transparent in some ways. Of course, we gotta be safe in safe spaces, but through transparency is how we can really, really be able to heal. So what you just now expressed was healing for me. It because
Mm,
what it said to me was it said that you can be taught something and you can through your own experience you can have a change of heart at something, and it don't mean that you're wrong. It don't mean that. It just means that your experience was different and that you're
right.
experiencing something different, and that's okay. So that was just all of that. Everything that you just said was healing, and I appreciate you for sharing that in this space.
Thank you. Can I just want to say two things that kind of shifted my change in direction and it's interesting you brought up Malcolm because I think that going to the continent, something about something about Africa, and it's the blackest place on earth, but even I think the humanity of that place
Mm. Mm-hmm.
really does something to you inner spiritually. And two, this whole uh, COVID thing,
Mm-hmm.
these last 2 years, it's really opened my eyes on a deeper level to this whole concept about race
Mm,
and
mm.
just the whole concept in general. It just really, and we can I know that's a whole nother story for another day, but those two things in general has really got me um um changing direction.
Yes. Yes.
So, Colette, I'm going to go ahead and let you jump in. Zinga, I know you have to head out, but I do want you to leave us with something before you leave. So, Colette, welcome. How are you, sis?
Hey sis, great conversation.
And here,
I'll be really quick, but just when I was listening to, first of all, thank you ladies for being so bare and just unapologetically you, and being real on an open platform, because it definitely is something that's going to help others. So, as Hanifa said, you guys are extremely, extremely brave. And with that said, one thing when I was listening to, and please help me with your name,
Nzinga, Nzinga.
and Zinga.
Mhm.
When I was listening to your story and you got to the part of when you met the man and he was complimenting you about your body, and then he told you to go and dance, you instinctively corrected yourself when you said, I didn't know better. And then you said, no, I did know better.
mm,
When I heard you said that, in my mind, I'm like, she's still blaming herself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something where I feel a lot of us do when we've gone through certain things in life. We still blame ourselves and not understand that it wasn't your fault. What you really did not know better. You
mm,
did not know better, and
mm,
that's okay. He knew better. So don't
mm,
correct yourself, you know? You were victimized, or however you want to say it. You were not you. So listening to that, I'm like, no, don't say that. You didn't know better, you know? But I'm so thankful you shared your story, and I appreciate, yeah. Okay. And I appreciate the other young ladies talking about okay, what her father did, because I'm listening to both of you guys and I'm like, wow, we're walking around here in this life with so much that we've been through, but people would look at us and be like, oh, there's nothing wrong with her, or there's nothing wrong with him. But they don't know how deep our story goes, and the work that you put in every day to not be that story, you know? And I commend you guys for it, because there's so many women that do not come out from it.
Mm-mm.
So many. They don't come out from it at all. You guys are the minority.
Yeah.
You guys are the minority. There's so many that relive it every day and do not know how to come out of it. But
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
And I can't come out of this being a parent right now, so I gotta go. But thank you for letting me be up here.
All right, Colette, thank you
Thank you
for your
so much for
Okay.
that feedback. It was
Bye.
Yes,
wonderful.
thank you.
and I think that's why platforms like this, honey, is so important. What you're
Mhm.
So
doing is
important.
because
So
you
important.
encourage other people. People. You give aha moments. You give the light bulb. You allow the light bulb to go off in people's mind that they may not even have considered before ever. It really
Mm-hmm.
can be life changing information.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
So in Zinga, I know you gotta roll up out of here. So why don't you leave us with something about changing direction? You know, you could share a quick story or just currently where you're at and how that experience has been thus far for you.
I first want to start off by saying, before I finish everything out, these children, excuse the noise, y'all, if y'all hear anything, they may
Mhm.
bust in the door because I ain't at the door no more. Just telling y'all right there. First and foremost, I want to thank you for allowing me to come on your platform. And just like El Kamor said, everybody's not privy to certain things that we may have been privy to along our journey, right? And so having a space like this where they can go and they can grow they can learn, they can hear other people, just a different narrative, a different perspective, a fresher perspective, maybe something different than what they used to hearing. You know, you are really, really, really changing the lives of people that you may not even know. They maybe never say it to you. You probably would never know, but you're changing it. And I just want to thank you for that, first and foremost, because this is divine work. This is divinity in essence right here. And with regards to the change in direction, I would say to myself, and to whomever may see this video, that as we spoke about at the beginning, always be willing and open to listening to your intuition. And I know that sometimes it takes time, but I think that even those people who may not be really good with listening to their intuition, they will know. They will know, because one thing that I'm learning about intuition is that it's constantly reminding, you know, and our intuition is different than our triggers, than our fears. Knowing the difference between the two. And yes, that goes back to what you were saying, when we get to know ourselves. But sometimes we'll be like, oh, my intuition told me, no, that was a trigger, sis. Stop it. Stop, you know. But, you know, as we grow, we begin to know, we know ourselves. We know, you know, the truth about who and what we are. So I would just say, with regards to changing direction, if you feel sad about something, a direction that you decided to go in, that's okay. If you feel, you know, like you said, sometimes you feel like you want to go back, or you want to, whatever the case may be, go back to what's comfortable. All of that is a part of the process, but to continue to continue walking forward. And what you know, and sometimes you may not know, is the unknown. Goes back to what we were talking about with regards to having faith and knowing that you're going to be okay. You're going to be guided. You're going to be fine. Just keep walking in who and what you know to be true at this present moment, because it can change in the future. Whatever those changes, just be open. Be like water, you know, in a sense. Be like water. So that's what I would close out with saying with regards to changing direction. Just continue to walk in it. You know, you'll pick up all the things you need to pick up along the way. And you might change another direction. We're going to continue just going like this, zigzagging. And then that's how you know that you're growing, because you're not just going in a straight line. So
thank you so much for that, Nzinga. And I'm going to go ahead and let you go, because I know you have another meeting.
Y'all have a great night.
You too. And thanks again. I'll be in touch.
Okay. All right. Have a great night. I'm so proud of you. I love you so much. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.
Okay. Much success to you on your trip to you're doing a group trip, right?
Retreat? Yes. I'm so y'all. That's another show. We're gonna have to come talk about it. We're gonna have to talk Tanzania and the retreats. All right, y'all. I'll talk to you.
Okay, please. All right.
Okay.
Let me see. Alkamar, there was something that I was going to say when Nzinga said what she said. I was going back to the faith piece. And I was just like, when I said, you don't need another confirmation, that came from my spirit, you know, because it's like this, you know, so many times, I don't know who it was for, but a lot of times we've all been there, where it's like, okay, you don't ask two people and you got the confirmation that you needed. You're still looking for a third and fourth person. When are you going to move forward?
You
know, but I think sometimes we use it as an excuse to not, because it's fair, really. You know, it's not, it's fair. You're actually paralyzed by fear. And the mask that you're wearing is that you're waiting for confirmation. That's what's happening.
And you're not trusting in yourself. You're not trusting in yourself. So you're looking for other people to give you validation, which should be coming from within.
Yeah. And the also saying, like, you might have your intuition. There is no scholar out there that's smarter than your intuition.
That's real talk.
There is no educated person, no degreed person, none of that. That's smarter than your own intuition. And that's what we get caught up in, is that what's their credentials? You know, what degrees they got, what did they study? You know what I'm saying? So that's the person I need to go. You know, and I'm going to go ahead and say this, not even your pastor. Right? Not even, what do they call them at the mosque? The Majid, what do they call them?
The imam.
The imam. Not even your pastor, your imam, your guru, whatever you want to call them. They are not as intelligent as your own intuition. They
Yeah.
cannot tell you more about you and what you need to do than your own inner wisdom. It's
Yeah,
just
good.
impossible.
Yeah, good point. Like when I hear people say these days, with the whole thing mulling around in the air, and they say, "Well, I trust the scientists and I trust the science." And my response is always, "Well, when are you going to trust yourself? When are you going to trust your own gut as to what your gut is telling you should do?"
Mm.
So,
Asha made a point here, Alcom. I want to read it out. He says, sometimes we are looking for confirmation of our doubt, not our belief.
mm, mm,
We're looking for a way out. We're looking for a way out.
that's it. That exit door,
Yeah,
that
that's
crack
very
window.
true. That is very true. But I
Yeah.
know, Alkema, I'm gonna go ahead and start to wrap up because I know you are also in the middle of working.
Yeah.
And I actually have a dinner date with my 10-year-old tonight.
Oh, look at there.
Uh-huh. What is it?
Oh, I said, look at there.
I know, I know.
Saying,
I try to do it every month, just him and I alone.
yeah.
But I wanted to say thank you for coming on the show. Did you want to say anything to change in direction? Because I know you're already shifting. You know what I'm saying? You already got some locks in your hair. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have a whole change of direction currently happening right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Yeah.
And I could speak before actually I want to close out. I want to let you close out. So I'm just gonna say my change of direction for me. So I wish Nzinga was here because I wanted to say this is that I've learned to look at the ending of the not necessarily look at something ending as an end, but as a new beginning
Mm.
and determining what I want to do with that new beginning
Yeah.
and trusting my experiences, right? And trusting myself to know what I do not want. So when I go forward now, when I pull out that book, Alchema, to start writing a new chapter, right? I know because of the other chapters what I don't want in this chapter.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I end the chapter and I put that period, I could either decide that, oh my gosh, it's the end, whatever would I do with myself, or I could get excited and be like, whoa, it's a new beginning. I get to do whatever I want to do. I get to
You
chart
got
my
it.
own path. I get to paint my own a new canvas. Whatever. It's all about perspective. It's all about how you look at it. So my change of direction is actually a change of I've elevated my consciousness because I'm just in a space right now where I've kind of been resting and I'm okay with that
Mm-hmm.
instead of like, because I have a tendency to be impulsive. Again, this is you knowing yourself and being able to hone that in and manage that. And I'm trying to do a better job at that. But to really sit with stuff and listen to what my spirit is saying, right? And differentiate spirit from my fears or spirit from my impulsivity, right? And so the change of direction that I've taken is I'm just in a space right now where I have a blank canvas before me.
Mm.
And I'm right now selecting what colors I want
Mm.
to put on this canvas. I'm right now selecting out my colors, red, blue, whatever I want. I get to do that. I get to do that. I get to paint the vision that I have for my own life now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never too late to do that. You could do that at any juncture, at any point in your life. So I wanted to speak to the change of direction piece because that's currently where I'm at. My direction has shifted tremendously. My consciousness in certain regards have shifted directly. And the last thing I'm going to say is one of the things that I could openly say now, I'm out the closet now on this one, okay? I came out the closet on this. I had to accept, like we have a culture of you gotta do this, you gotta do that. Like, we've talked about this. You gotta go to college, you gotta do this. And it's funny how many of us are carrying guilt around not doing those things. So we don't think that we have, like some people call it imposter syndrome. We don't think that we have the right to be in certain spaces because we don't have the qualifications. We don't think we have the right to speak on certain things because we don't have a PhD, or we have all of these things that that we deal with within ourselves. And the truth is this: you could start where you're at right now, and you could decide to shift and change and go after the thing that you really, really love. Because
Mm.
most of us, we end up coming full circle anyway. Most of us end up going back to where we were at 8 in our thinking. And when I said, I mean your desires, because those desires when you were younger were pure. They were pure. And you find yourself going back to them like, yo, I've always wanted to do this since I was a child. But me coming out the closet is this. I could publicly say right now, because I've always felt this way for years, I had to accept that the American dream is not a dream of mine. It's not. And I had to be okay with that. I don't care if I never get the white picket fence. I don't care if I never get the 3 garage. Like what I want to leave in this world, it's bigger than that.
No doubt.
It's bigger than having a Mercedes and 2 cars and 3 cars, and it's even bigger than having millions. Now, millions, I want you to know, if you want to come. Don't stay away, please. You're welcome. Yeah. However, it is not my for that if I do not get those. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Okay.
I have to accept that and openly be able to publicly say, the American dream is not my dream.
No doubt.
And you don't get to, because it's your dream, Alkema, you don't get to condemn me for not embracing that dream because it's yours. And Colette said something earlier about grace with each other. We have to, and Nzinga, acceptance. Learn to accept each other and just love each other.
Yeah.
And stop projecting. So that's enough of my change of direction. I want you to close out with your change of direction so we can close out the show.
Yeah, I love your shirt, by the way. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just encourage folks to move in spirit. Again, you know when it's divine. I think it's just intrinsically, and to move in that spirit, and to keep tuning in to stations like your own, Hanifa, and people who are advanced in their thought processes. My father would say the foremost are the foremost, meaning there's always been people that have been ahead of the curve. You know what I'm saying? Ahead of the curve. And it has to be. Somebody has to be out front swiping away at those weeds and bush, paving the path for others to follow through. I mean, and that's, in life in general. So I would say to tune into those spirits like your own, and people that are singing a different tune that is more in alignment with a higher elevated thought process, because that's going to help pull you through. We it's a circle. We are a whole. And that's how we glean from each other. We get from one another what we need. And just in making that a habit, because the more you tune in to a different voice and tune out of the same old, the stronger the change will occur in yourself. And so you become, a product of your environment. Your environment becomes a higher elevated form of discussion. And then the next thing you know, you'll start surrounding yourselves physically with people like that as well. So I just encourage people to just stay tuned in.
Yeah.
And and then that in changing direction, and it's okay. It is scary. So I won't say don't be afraid, because that's a part of the journey. But you feel that fear, don't let it stop you. Don't let it stop you from your goals, your dreams, and your aspirations. Feel it, acknowledge it, respect it, and keep walking. Keep walking right on through it. Don't let it stop you.
That is so good. Thank you so much, Alkema. Thank you so much. And before you leave, and for the comment section, guys, I'm actually trying to, by maybe next month, I'm actually trying to find a name for my Friday night show. So being that you guys, and Alkema, you as well, I'm sure if you think of any, just let me know, shoot me a text. But those of you guys who are a little more familiar with my personality and kind of what I'm interested in doing and what I shared today, if you have ideas, I have one idea so far from my king. And if you guys have any I want to name the Friday night show something. I'm not sure yet. I'm still sitting with it, and I'm like, as I do more shows, different things are coming to me. But I think I'm a little bit clearer in the direction I want the platform to go. I really want it to be a space where people can come and build, like we just did, and provoke thought and inspire healing. You know what I mean? So like the people that I bring on, I want to bring on everyday people. Like we just had a conversation. We're everyday people having these conversations, as well as bring on professionals. So I want to mix those things, but I want to keep it. Sean made a comment and say, thank you. When he sent my cash app, he left a comment and said, thank you for always pouring a clean glass of water. I love that. Like,
yes, honey, so you allow that, like, the way I don't open up like I did tonight with anybody, but you set the platform for that. You know what I'm saying? You allow a safe space for that to occur with no heat, no judgment. And I appreciate that.
Judgment. Yeah. Thank you so much, Alkema. And so, like I said, if you guys, you're on Facebook with me, just shoot me an inbox or something. If you have an idea of a name, I'm still sitting with it. I'm hoping to have something by March. It's not a rush. But again, Alkema, I am very, very proud of you. You are one of my big sisters, and I love you so much. We clicked from the time we met. Coming to your table, and you are always, I could call on you at any time. And I think we're both, we try to return the favor to each other as much as possible. But I want you to know that I'm proud of you. I'm excited about your journey, and I will be following it. Okay, but don't move to Tanzania and forget about me.
No way.
Okay.
No way.
But yeah, but thank you guys for tuning in, everyone. I appreciate you guys as usual. I will see you guys again on Friday at 5 p.m. I love you guys. Come here for your fresh glass of water. Come here and get your clean glass of water every Friday at 5 p.m. Love you guys. Love you, Alkema. Peace.
Peace and love, family.